Hey Timmy, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, good here. We got a nice June 26th here. Big day after the election.
I don't know what the hell's going on, man. All of a sudden, people are going to start thinking we have a 5 cent podcast because it's awful sluggish.
Well, mine seems to be okay
There
now.
you go. Now you're better. I don't know. Maybe it was just the intro. Who the hell knows? But it's not a 5 cent. It's costing me thousands, and you don't seem to want to pitch in, man. You cheap son of a bitch.
Yeah, that's hey. I
I
just went out and bought a new mic.
I paid $200 for my mic. You got the same one on eBay for $14.
That's true.
Welcome to Truth, Lies, and Political Bullshit, right?
Yeah, that's
Hey,
right.
so Timmy, listen, finally, the election's over. Primary day's over. We had some exciting primaries throughout the capital region. And,
Yeah,
we had an exciting one right here in the city of Cohoes, the 6th Ward. For those who don't know, I think most who watched the show would remember, there was a race between Justin Alicio and Tommy Fife. And Tommy Fife beat them both in the primary and in the general. And then we had a situation where King Keeler and the Merry Men, led by Billy McCarthy, they all decided that some reason they were going to pluck something out of their ass and say that if he didn't resign, they were going to fire him from the fire department
yeah.
because of some bullshit code that they said existed that we all know doesn't.
It was an
But
opinion, not any legal decision.
yeah, it was an opinion out of Keeler's ass because
Yeah,
that's what it was, an asinine
just an
opinion, right?
opinion. Yeah,
And so Tommy Fife ends up stepping down and saying, you know what, this isn't worth it for me. My health, you guys are getting me sick. They put the guy through the ringer,
they did.
and and so he steps down, and they make a temporary appointment here in Cohoes for John Franier, who for me, I love the guy. He's one of the absolutely, you know. Best gentlemen that you could ever have in politics. Matter of
Yeah,
fact,
very, yeah, a stoic man. I'd like to
yeah,
say.
stoic man. Even politics can't corrupt the guy. That's how
Yeah,
good of a
yeah,
man he is. So,
yeah.
so he steps in and he takes over, and then April Trudeau decides, hey, I've run for this seat before. I've come close a couple times, and I want to run again. And so
Mhm.
she throws her name in the hat. I would say that I don't know. I know that you may have a different opinion, but in the scheme of things, I don't think it was the worst campaign, violent, mean, mudslinging campaign. There was some Facebook posts, but you know
I
what?
would
Who knows?
agree with that, but overall, you're right. I
Yeah,
mean, both sides really they didn't go, you know, killer attitude. They made a few pokes here and there, but
yeah, and that's
I mean,
politics. It'd be
yeah,
boring if you didn't have a few pokes,
yeah,
right? I mean,
right. But I mean, overall, I mean, it was a well-run, clean campaign. I would say.
yeah, it really was. And so April, um, mother, businesswoman, says, hey, I want to run for this because I love my city too, and I believe I can do a great job, and I'm not going to let this guy just walk in. I think she, like a lot of people, were really upset what they did to Tommy Fife, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and, she had a bird's eye view to say, hey, they voted this guy Justin out already.
right,
Why does he think he's going to walk right back in after they
right,
just pulled this dirty shit on Tom Fife? So
right,
she
right.
throws her hat in the ring. And I
Mm-hmm.
was really excited because I think she's dynamic. I think she's a go-getter, right? She's a young woman raising a baby. So she got that mother understanding. She has a business mind. She runs a big restaurant, and she's one of the top real estate salespeople in the capital region. I mean,
Yeah,
this
you know,
girl's got everything going.
right. And we stayed on this podcast. We pretty much stayed right out of that
We offered both of them to
election.
come on the show.
And we did offer Justin, but he refused to come on.
Well, he said, "What podcast?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He
So
come on.
I'm glad. You know what? So he says that what podcast? He must be have his head up his ass. But
Hmm.
if he doesn't know we have a podcast, but that was just bullshit. That was just being
Yeah,
sarcastic.
that's true.
But April came on and she shared her plan, and I think a lot of people after she came on, we got 50,000 viewers going on.
Hmm.
We're even higher than that now. After we had her on, I mean, the amount of emails and messages that we got saying, "Hey, where do we get in contact with her? Where how do we never voted? How do we
Yeah,
vote? Blah blah blah, all the good stuff." So I think it helped her pick up some momentum. But she won a race because she worked her ass off.
She did.
And we can say it here on this show. She beat Alicio by over 30 votes. And in a small little city, that's a pretty good plurality, believe it or not. She really put a trouncing on him. And she did it by knocking on doors and knocking on doors and knocking on doors and talking to people. And she worked her ass off.
She did. She worked a job. She takes her boy to school, goes to the little league games with him. She has her own family life, runs 2 businesses, real estate, and she still found time to do that. So here she is every night out there, Sean, knocking on doors, going everywhere she could go, meeting people on the street. I mean, I can't say it any better than you did. This woman, she worked her butt off, okay, and she earned it.
Yeah, she did. I'm going to tell you, we tried to get her on the show, but like we just said, she's working her ass off. Restaurants, child, real estate. So we were lucky enough, Timmy, to have her join us via telephone. April, you with us?
I'm here.
Hey, let's first start by saying congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You are now council member elect April Trudeau, who we were just saying worked her tail off. She was out there. Tell us a little bit about what you did to get to meet people that already knew Justin because he spent 4 years on the council. But you born and raised here, but you still don't know everybody on the island. You had to go work hard. So tell us a little about what you did.
Yeah. I mean, I think just any chance I got that I wasn't working and I wasn't, spending time with my son, I would just make sure that I would hit at least a couple streets every night. I really wanted to focus on making sure that the people that couldn't vote, I got them absentee ballot applications so that their voice could still be heard, even if they couldn't physically make it. And I think that was a huge difference in itself. I was door knocking up to 8:45 before the polls ended. I wanted to make sure that every single person who wanted to have an opportunity to share their voice had that opportunity. So I wanted to make sure I was reminding them. I worked from morning to night yesterday. I ended up going to bed without any celebration with a migraine.
Yeah.
Well, that migraine is the celebration because that's what politics is going to give you for the next 3.5 years. So get used to the migraines. But I think it's exciting. I think, April, you ran for this seat before, once or twice?
Twice.
So here's a beautiful example of somebody who says, listen, I've been knocked down, but I'm going to get back up.
Just like Carmelo, right? Just like Carmelo.
Yes, just like Carmelo, who ended up being the mayor of Troy. So I'm not saying that you want to be mayor of Cohoes, but maybe you do someday. But think about it, right? You said, I don't care how many times you knock me down. I really want to give of myself to my city, and I'm just going to run again. And if I lose, I lose. But I want people to know who I am. I'm out there. I care. Here's my ideas. Here's what I'm thinking. You had a page up where people could engage with you. And in the end of the day, man, you're sending a message to a lot of little girls out there. Don't give up. It's not just girls, but little girls can look up at you and say, she didn't quit. And this is a council seat in the city of Cohoes, but it doesn't matter what it is. What matters is how you did it.
She brings a woman's view to the council.
Well, mother's view.
And Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there was ever a woman elected in the 6th ward for office. Was there?
No, I think April's the first, but
I think she's the first.
Yeah. So April, tell us what you're going to do when you get there, right? You're going to hit the ground running.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to take every idea and every opinion of the people that I've already spoke with, and I plan on from now to November and on just meeting with people as many times as I can and getting those solutions to the problems that they're facing and that are affecting their everyday. And I want to make sure that, like I said previously, every single person in my ward has a voice and I can fix whatever problem that they're facing by themselves as a team.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'll give you a little advice. I've been in politics a long time, and I was an underdog in every race that I ever ran, right? Mm-hmm. when I first knocked on my first door when I was running for the county legislature, I would say to people, "My name is Sean Morris, and I'm here to tell you that I'm only going to make one promise, and that's that I can't promise you anything other than I'm going to
Right.
work hard." Right? Because as a legislator, you're just one voice,
Right.
but one voice can be loud and one voice can be boisterous. Right? It can be the person who says, "Hey, I'm going to meet with my community on a monthly basis. I'm going to have a Facebook page. I'm going to have, email and access." And I think people really just want somebody who will do that because everybody says they're going to do that. And then they get in office and they fall in line. They raise their hand when they're told. And I think people want to see somebody who's independent.
Yeah.
And I think you're independent.
Absolutely. Yeah, I am very much independent and I agree with what you said. Unfortunately, I wish I could promise the world for every single person I talk to, but all I can do is promise that I'm going to work as hard as I can to get as many results for them as I can.
I
And
think that's
that's
all people would ask.
yeah, that's really my goal. And I mean, the difference between me and what has been happening, I fully believe, is I want to make sure that I get those opinions and bring the information before the vote happens instead of just informing them this meeting took place and this was the vote and this was the result. That
And,
doesn't
Yeah.
give them any time to put their input in. And that's not what I'm there for. I'm not there to just let you know a meeting happened and I voted this because then I'm not being your voice. Then I'm choosing for you.
Yeah. I
and
think
you've been to these council meetings, and you've been
Yeah.
to the neighborhood watch meeting, I believe, down there in the island, which is a good source for you to get a feel for what's going on in the minds of people down there. You've been to the public safety meetings, so you've been trying to get to these meetings and glean information, get a feel where people are in the city. So,
Right.
you are making that effort.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember. First of all, people really don't think that you can do everything, right? I think people believe that if you work hard and you show them that you try, that's all they ask for. I don't think people believe for one second that you're going to be able to accomplish everything. And people are smart. People ain't stupid. They see that you work hard and that you try. And my advice is always going to be this, right? I mean, you have a mayor of the city, and I'm not a big fan because I see the massive decline. But he is the mayor of the city, and the council should give him as much latitude as the leader as they can to help him institute his plan of action. But on the same token, the council has to be able to say, whoa, this stuff is getting crazy. And we're going to talk about that later in the show about the ambulance, because I think finally the council recognized that the mayor was making some really poor decisions, and they had to step in and say, hey, we may be with you 99.9% of the time, but this time we can't. And it's starting to show a little bit of a more independent body. And you have to have an independent body, but you have to learn to work together. And you're not going to be able to ask the community about everything because they did elect you to make decisions that are best on their behalf. But if it's a major decision when it comes to ambulances and the redistricting that that was stolen from them,
Yep.
those are major issues that you need to have dialogue with your community.
I
But
think you can look and have further conversations with that about that redistricting.
too late now.
Yeah, but
We'll be old men before that comes back up. But
I don't think so.
well,
We'll see.
it only happens every 10 years. So anyway, April, I know you were a big you had big concerns about the ambulance. I think by now they voted and the new ambulance has got to be Mohawk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
I'm
think
thrilled about that.
yeah, because you had that. Remember, you had the personal experience, right, where they couldn't even take your child to the hospital because they didn't have a car seat.
A few of them. Yes.
Yeah. Here's one thing that I want to share with you, and I know you're busy and you got to work and you're at your restaurant or whatever, but here's an example of what happened to our city, and I can't even put my arms around it. And if the residents of this city don't see the major malfunction here, but think of this: 8 months ago, we had the opportunity to bring Mohawk Ambulance to the city of Cohoes for free.
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 Yes, free.
Now we are going to pay the ambulance that said we would do it for free, $1 million a year. And we're going to talk about that, Timmy, later on in the show.
That's right. Yeah. I
But
mean,
but there you go, April. Those are the type of things that are going to cost the taxpayers for a long, long time. $1 million in this small city is
you got to
enormous.
make that up somehow. And then, we're hearing some things like U-Haul may be moving on out, Mohawk Paper down there, and then Norlight's got problems. So all these things are happening all at once.
Yeah, you're going to have your hands full, and we really excited for you. But just about that ambulance, the council at that time were puppets,
Yes.
and they just raised their hand and took another ambulance company for $1 million when they had one for free.
Right.
And I think the people realize, April, that you will be somebody who thoroughly researches these things before you just raise your hand, and that is refreshing.
Yes. I'm definitely somebody who likes to research and get my eyes on all the information, and I'm not going to say yes or no just because somebody says to or because it's the popular vote.
Yeah, right. Truth before popularity. That's always
and
been
look,
my motto.
and then you've had guys like that, like Bill Smith. I mean, okay, he got off the Christmas card list because
God bless Billy.
because he wouldn't vote their way all the time. Again, I mean, that's the way this city operates. So you got to make tough decisions, and you got to vote your conscience.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
April, have you been in touch with John Franier?
I have. I actually seen him last night when I went and stopped.
Good. I think it'd be. Go ahead.
Amazing.
I'm sorry.
He's an amazing man. Like you said, his heart is pure, and there couldn't be a better guy for the position. I'm glad he was appointed to be the
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it'd be smart on your behalf if you reach out to him. I mean, he's going to be there for the remainder of the year. Maybe talk with him, learn some of the stuff that they're engaging in, because it's a very odd situation because you're going to be walking into a position where some of the stuff and the dialogue's been going on for months and months and months, and they're going to be wanting to vote and they're going to be wanting to do these things, and you're going to be like, whoa, I got to catch up. And it may be a good idea to catch up with him and stay in touch with him and follow along what's going on now, because you're going to be walking right into a lot of stuff. It ain't like a new mayor and a new council just getting elected. You're going to be walking in the middle of a year's worth of.
I know what her very first vote's going to be if she gets through this, okay, which I expect her to. But I know what her very first vote will be. What do you think it's going to be, Sean?
Her very first vote would be to vote for Truth, Lies, and Political Bullshit as the #1 podcast in the capital region.
She's going to have to cast her vote for a new council president.
Well, hey, when that time comes, I'm sure she'll do her homework.
Okay, so everybody's going to love her.
April, listen, congratulations. Thanks for coming on the show. Very
you.
proud of you. I know you're going to do great. We're going to have you on throughout the course of your term, and we're really proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I really just want to thank my family, my friends, and all of my supporters and the people who came out and voted. Obviously I wouldn't have gotten this far without that support. And I truly appreciate each and every person that has helped me and supported me. And I look forward to hopefully, doing the right thing and helping everybody out as I intend to.
Well, we're confident you're going to do that, and just go out there and be Cohoes proud and help move this city in the right direction. God knows we need it. So, April, good luck and get back to work now. Quit slacking.
Hey, kids, stay the course. Adios.
See you later.
Nice having you on. Bye now.
So Timmy, we got to jump right into Albany, because that is another situation where, man, I don't know. David Soares versus Lee Kinlan. David Soares, probably the most liberal DA for the first 15 years of his career, sees the light and recognizes that these far left liberal crazy policies, raise the age and bail reform, are really just ruining the country. But New York, especially, and the capital, Albany, where murders and rapes and crime and of all types are at its highest peaks, and he comes out and he starts taking on the establishment. When what do you think, Timmy? What do you think happens to you when you take on the establishment?
Well, the first thing that happens is you end up getting off Billy Keeler's Christmas card list. Okay, so I'm sure he'll be off that list. And then, same thing that happened to you. Okay, the jackals come out.
Yeah, the
Okay,
jackals come out, and that's
jackals come on out, and that's what happened with them.
well. I'll tell you. I think the reality is this, right? So David takes on the assembly.
Yep.
He's criticizing everybody over the raise the age, and I got to be honest with you, he's right. He's 100% right. He had the backing of all the people in law enforcement because law enforcement have they're ready to throw in the towel because no matter what they do, these left liberal people are creating policies that just place our communities in grave danger, right?
Yes. Yes.
But last night, and I don't know if I was shocked because we'll jump into it in a minute, but last night, left Lee Kinlan, and I'm going to call him Left Lee Kinlan. You can see him at the bottom standing next to the Flash Gordon, mayor of Albany over there. That
Yeah.
is probably the worst
That is-
mayor.
Yeah.
Yeah, worst mayor in the city's history,
Yeah.
and she is left and crazy liberal as they come.
Sanctuary
And
area, Sanctuary Sheehan, I think is her name.
yes, sanctuary city. She wants,
Yeah.
to bring all the migrants. She wants the tulip queen to be a boy. She's just so far out there. And
Yeah.
Albany has never been, what's the word I want to say? A shithole like it is now. And there's a lot of good people in Albany. But you know what the problem is? If you look, 300,000 people in Albany County, and how many people voted? 25,000? I don't. I mean, I didn't look at the numbers, but I
I
mean,
didn't see them yet either.
it is just. I'm sure it was pathetic. And those left liberal crazies, and they are crazy. They come out and grows, and they elect a new DA. David's out. The new guy's in, and the new guy, has never prosecuted people. He has spent his whole career getting bad people off the hook.
Right, off. Yeah.
Right. There was some kind of case, and I'm not going to say it verbatim because I only read it the other day because I haven't followed Lee because he's irrelevant to the to the political establishment. But there was a case where he's defending a gentleman who raped a girl. And part of his defense, and he had no shame about it, is saying to the girl, something, and I'm just going to paraphrase it, something to the effect, well, weren't you moaning when it happened? Like somehow this girl enjoyed being raped because some noise came out of her mouth. I mean, it's just disgusting. And his response is, hey, I got to do what I got to do to defend my people and get the truth out. Now, I get it. That's the world we live in, and that's the United States, and that's justice, right? Somebody's got to represent the people who are accused, and I truly support that with every ounce of my body. I've been there, and somebody has to prosecute. But now what you have is you have a person who spent his whole life letting bad guys out. All of a sudden, he's got to be the prosecutor, and he's a far left liberal.
Well, that's a flip, isn't it?
And that's a flip that I think last night Albany County residents have made a flip to put our county in the worst position it could ever be by electing somebody who believes in the raise the age and the bail reform as strong as you and I and David Soares and the police and the sheriff and everybody else believe it's bad. So I think Albany's in a lot of trouble. I think if you thought crime in Albany was bad before, I think it's going to be 10 times worse. He's going to be letting people out of jail like you've never seen because he doesn't believe it. He's going to be like New York City. He's going to be like California.
Yeah.
I mean, people are going to be able to go into the stores and rob $880 worth of stuff, and you go, oh, no problem. It wasn't $900.
Yeah, I mean, you
Right?
can't even, if you're a store employee, you can't even defend your own store. I mean, your employer fires you for defending their properties and to stop theft.
Yeah, you
Okay?
can't do nothing, right? And these guys are
Upside
not
down-
prosecuting.
It's right. It's an upside down world now where the criminals have all the rights.
Yeah, so congratulations to Albany County and all those left crazy liberals that voted a guy in who's going to let people out of jail. And he's not going to prosecute crimes. And then Kathy Sheen can say, oh, crime is down in Albany. No shit, crime is down in Albany as a statistic because you don't arrest anybody because cops say, I'm not arresting nobody because if I arrest them, this guy don't prosecute him or judges let him out in 60 seconds after we dropped them off in front of the judge. And cops have thrown the white flag in. We see it here in Cohoes. We
happening.
see it all around.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you think the white flag went up with the police before, where do you see it under Lee Kinlan? I am not convinced by any stretch of the imagination that this guy is going to do anything to better protect the communities. He's come out and said how much he likes bail reform and raise the age, and it's all bullshit. Those are philosophies of people who are just continuing to try to figure out ways to gain votes. They're trying to figure out ways to engage in situations where the common folk has to rely on the politician to just live a basic life, right?
Yeah.
That everything we need, we have to go to them because we can't live on our own without them. Like they're the kings and the queens, and we're just the jokers. That's what I feel. I feel like the Joker. I mean, I can't do anything in my life no more. But I know that Albany is the capital of New York. It's one of the unsafest places. I think they have 9 murders already. They're ahead of last year that broke an all-time record. And why people are getting shot in the streets, she's over in Ukraine trying to solve the Ukrainian war. Like, what the hell is what has she got to be in Ukraine for? What value does she bring to the war in Ukraine when there's a war on the streets of Albany? It's just it's mind-boggling. So.
Yeah.
So I think David ran a campaign that I think David, first of all, I'm not a fan of him personally, and you know that, right?
Yeah.
I think the guy let my family down, and I think the truth is he became a hot shot, and he thought he was untouchable. And the fact that he would make $200,000 a year and then take $20,000 bonuses and hand out bonuses to his buddies that were just bonuses that you see on Wall Street. Is just astronomical, and he didn't care, and he tried to justify it. And I think the people said, you know what, all this crime is going on, and they blame him because he's the DA, even though he was fighting against it. And then they said, oh, he's taking the money and he's patting his pockets, and that money's supposed to be for people, who work in the office to retain them. And he's already making $200,000 a year. So I think that's what bit him in the ass. And it's not the first time. Mike Connors used to be the county controller. I used to say you're supposed to be a watchdog, not an attack dog. But him and David Soares used to go at it. And he said that David was misappropriating, money that came in that was supposed to be used for certain items and certain things. And they were buying fancy cars for their offices, and they're buying, $60,000 Yukons and so there's been a history of whether David has always used that money appropriately. And I think you can look past it when you're using it for like gang violence and, kid programs, even though it's not meant for that or whatever it's meant. But I don't think you can overlook it when he says, I took the money. He didn't do it the appropriate way. He's not stupid. And I think people looked at him and said, we can't trust you no more. And
when these other stories came out, I think that, all the press and everything that was involved in that probably hurt him.
yeah, and I think his attitude hurt him. Well, it's nothing illegal, but I'll give it back.
Yeah.
You know.
He admitted it.
Yeah, well, you don't give it back if it's not illegal, right? And then he took care of his buddies. I'm not going to say all their names, but there's people in his office that I don't think are worth a nickel that got, $45,000, $50,000 bonuses over the course of a couple years. Yet they were already the highest paid people in his office. And the money was for something called retention. Retention means all those lawyers are getting out of school with a $200,000 loans that they have to pay, and they're only making $45,000 and $50,000 working in the district attorney's office. They gave them that money to give them people more money to retain them, so they weren't just coming and saying, I'm out of here, I'm out of here, I'm out of here, because they're not making no money and they're working their asses off.
Yeah.
And all that money should have went to them. And I think, David, whether it's misappropriation of the money or not is not for me to decide, but certainly looking at the moral compass of how it was spent, it could have been spent a lot better. And I think at the end, those people didn't come out for David, and they voted for a left liberal DA that they're going to regret. You know what it reminds me of, Tim? It reminds me of Donald Trump. People hate Donald Trump. They hate him so bad that they'd put him in prison for life if they could. And people won't vote for him because they hate him.
Yeah.
And I don't give a shit if I hate you with all my heart. If you're the best heart surgeon, I'm going to ask you to do the surgery on me. I don't need to love you. I don't need to like you. I don't care what your tweets say. None of that affects my daily life, but your policies affect my life. What you do to the country affects my life. So I could hate you with all my heart, but if your policies are good, I can say I hate the guy, but I can't lie. His policies are working. David Soares fell into that category. Two things killed him. One, that he took on the Phil Stecks and all of those assholes that are in the assembly, and they came after him and said, we're going to destroy this guy. And Phil Steck was out there. He's an assemblyman from Colony. If you can't win Colony, you're in trouble. And he has a stronghold on Colony. So he had all these power players against him. And then he had the money issue.
Yes.
And when you put those bookends together, it crushed him in the middle. And now we have Lee Kinlan, and we'll have to wait and see, what next year brings. But I think
Kinlan's running against somebody else, I believe, right?
well, he's got a Republican. That's
Okay.
Nothing that is going to happen with that Republican.
Yeah.
Hey, Timmy, let me just jump off for a minute and say to everybody, hey, if you like the show, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Yes, we are still working with a couple other companies to get us up and running. You would think you just push a button in today's day and age, but there's a lot of technology and running third-party programs into their programs. There's a whole lot of licensing and a whole bunch of other things. So, hey, for now, stick with us on Facebook and YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell. You'll get notifications when our shows are coming live, and we're starting to prepare to start taping some shows so we have more than just one a week. But I appreciate you jumping in and subscribing. So, Timmy, let's jump into the ambulance.
Sure, but before we do that, I want to say to Harold Felt, he's heartbroken that he didn't get a Christmas card either.
Harold, I'll send you one, brother.
No, we're gonna put you on our personal list. So yeah, let's jump in on the ambulance there.
So you got the ambulance. So let me go back to what I was trying to say. I want people, you've listened to this before on the show. Hear what I have to say and wrap your arms around it, because I'm telling you, it's going to go down as one of the biggest blunders in the city's history that is going to cost millions of dollars, and it's going to have residual effects. It may not have him when Keeler's in office, because he'll just keep stealing money from everywhere else to make it look like he's doing a good job. But somebody else will walk in, and they will get hit right across the face with the old budget stick, and they're going to be the ones that are going to be facing with layoffs and cuts. But so let me tell you what happened. We had Troy Ambulance, right, Timmy?
Yeah, we did. It was a Troy or Empire.
Well, Troy Empire are the same company, all right?
Yeah.
And they've been here since Bobby Signoracci recognized the need to have an ambulance in our city.
Yeah,
that was well
White Street.
That was right. That was well before the Cohoes Fire Department was ever trained to the extent that they are now, where they are completely, other than being able to have paramedics to push certain medicines, they can provide just about every type of emergency services that you need when they come to your house. So we are well advanced from where we were back when Troy Ambulance first came. So Bobby Signoracci worked out a deal, and I think the deal was like $60,000, and the ambulance would staff one ambulance in the city. We also only did a couple thousand calls a year back in those days. So they've been in the city for a very long time. Over the course of the time, they ended up being in a situation where the city no longer had to pay them. They made enough revenue based on the call volume in the city and the insurance companies, and they're a business, right? So they made money through the insurance and through billing. And they stayed here all the way until I was still the mayor of the city. And somewhere along the line, they must have decided they wanted to retire. And they sold their certificate of need, which is something required by the state to do business with an ambulance, to that company called Ambulance.
Yes, yeah.
So they notified the city, and I know they notified the city well in advance. But Keeler, having no knowledge of anything to do with, city government, no knowledge of firefighting, no knowledge of ambulances, no knowledge of any of these things, sits back for about 6 months and does nothing. And then all of a sudden, Troy Ambulance or Empire Ambulance, the same company, packs it in, and all of a sudden we don't have an ambulance in the city. So now he's scrambling to figure out what to do. He sits down with this ambulance, and then he comes out basically and tells the public, I met with them. I thought it was going to be free.
He did
Free-
say that.
He did say that. And my
13, didn't he?
And my response was, well, what meeting were you at? Because they're telling us that it's $1 million a year. I
Yeah.
can only think about the poor owners of Troy Ambulance when they're going to pay this company $1 million. Can you imagine Troy Ambulance sells and they're just making the money off of the
Yeah.
call volume, and now this company is going to make that money plus $1 million? It's
Yeah.
outrageous. But here's the problem. So they're trying to figure out what to do. Mohawk Ambulance, who is the biggest ambulance company in the capital region, I don't know, 30 ambulances on the road every day, says to the city, hey, you call us first, we'll do it basically for free. I don't know all of the particulars. We did have some inside information, talk to the ambulance people or people that were close with them, and that was basically what it was. The only difference was Joe Fott hates that ambulance company. So he did everything he could not to have them here. Secondly, they tried to use this excuse, they weren't going to park their ambulance in Cohoes. Well, I've had this argument with a lot of people who I don't think know anything about EMS. They all think they do, but they don't. Mohawk said, hey, we're going to be here in the capital region. We got 30 ambulances. We already do all your backups. We do backups for every other city. We're only 6 to 9 minutes away, and we're going to provide you with those services, and you're never going to have to worry about whether you have an ambulance. Now, people in Cohoes are blessed because the fire department gets to your house in 2 or 3 minutes. They can provide every single service and do provide every single service that the ambulance EMTs provide. Okay? So it isn't like if they're coming to your house, Timmy, that you have no treatment.
Right. They just don't transport.
Right. So the firemen are going to come to your house. They're going to do all of their business. They're going to provide you with the care. They're going to give you the oxygen. They're going to give you nebulizers. They're going to treat you with Narcan. They're going to shock you if you're having a heart attack and you're laying on the floor. They can provide all of these services, right?
Mm-hmm,
And most of the time, a fireman is inside somebody's house going through the motions for at least 10 to 15 minutes if it's really somebody who's got an emergency. So they're being treated within 2 or 3 minutes, and the ambulance shows up, and it's seamless if the ambulance is 6 to 7 minutes away. Okay?
Yeah.
We're not talking 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
8 minutes like that is
Right,
good.
we're talking enough time where the patient in
And the
their
fire
house is being...
department's already there.
Yes, and they're already being treated, and by the time the ambulance gets there, the fire department may not even be done treating them yet, and if they are, they put them on the ambulance and send them to the hospital. That's what professional fire departments do. That's the EMS service. That's the service of fire department, ambulance. Not every city has its own private ambulance. But anyway...
Well, quick question though for you. Who else, what other city around us is paying $1 million a year for
Well, again, I don't believe anybody is, and I believe Keeler just opened up Pandora's box and changed the whole landscape. And I can imagine there's a lot of people behind the scenes saying, what an asshole this guy is, because now every ambulance is going to want a big chunk of money, $1 million up front. And that's bullshit. They're going to make $1 million for the calls.
So
So let me just,
yeah, they're going to end up saying to places like Albany or whatever, if you don't have your own ambulance service, you're paying us $1 million a year to do it.
yeah. So here's what happens. So
Keeler did.
that's what Keeler did. Keeler opened up a can of worms. He screwed over this city. He's probably got a lot of mayors in small cities calling him an asshole, like the rest of the rest of the people in this business are, because he put them into a spot where they're going to have to probably face the same consequence when they didn't have to face it before. So anyway, so Troy Ambulance offers to do it for free. Ambulance wants $1 million. And you think it'd be a no-brainer, but they had the Dodo Bird Council, right?
Yeah.
And Keeler wants to do ambulance and paying the $1 million. That Dodo Bird Council all raised their hand. And next thing you know, we're paying $1 million a year for an ambulance service that can only provide this less than probably what the fire department provides already, unless there's a paramedic. You need a paramedic when there's paramedics push drugs. So if they're in full cardiac arrest and need drugs, but a lot of times those drugs ain't helping anyway, and they're doing the defibrillator, and if the defibrillator ain't working, they're rushing you to the hospital. But all that takes time too in your house. It doesn't happen like, oh my God, it took 6 minutes for an ambulance to get there, that's why they died. The fire department's working on you for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes anyway. So people in Cohoes now, put your arms around this. The company that came to do it for free then sends a letter to the city and says, you badmouth us one more time, Joe Fod, we're suing the city. Then this council recognizes that the mayor is making terrible mistakes, spending millions of dollars, and they say, we've had enough. Mm-hmm. We're sorry, Mayor. We can't support you on this most haphazard bullshit that you're doing.
In between that, what happened too is they did create this public safety committee, and the mayor ignored it and simply said, I don't care what they decide. We're just keeping ambulance. And that happened. Now, you basically got the same public safety committee, just chaired by Higgins opposed to Biggs, okay? And you got a new council, okay? And they voted 6-0. I was shocked, Sean. Even the lapdog voted yes.
Yeah, but here's the problem for the citizens of Cohoes.
Yes.
That yes is a year too late.
Oh, yeah.
You know why that yes is a year too late?
$1 million a year.
It's a year too late because when the city turned down the ambulance company for free,
right,
Mohawk for free,
yes.
Mohawk then put in a proposal like everybody else when the city went out and said, we want proposals.
Yep.
And they said, okay, $1 million. Mm-hmm. And the mayor then says, screw you, we're still going with ambulance.
Yes.
Well, that contract is up, and ambulance could never provide the service that Mohawk's providing, right? So Mohawk ends up...
And everybody else wouldn't provide mutual aid with ambulance, too.
Right, there's a lot of reasons.
A lot of things happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons.
Yes.
But this council then says, okay, we're going to go with Mohawk. The only problem, people, is Mohawk is now $1 million a year. So Keeler, who could have got it for free, is now paying the company $1 million. 7 months ago, free. Today, $1 million. Not because anything changed other than he's a moron.
Yes.
He made a huge mistake. The council recognized the service that he wanted for the $1 million wasn't worth it. And they voted in the company called Mohawk, and Mohawk now, instead of doing it for free, is getting $1 million. If that's not the biggest blunder in the city's history, if that doesn't show the most incompetent mayor in the city's history, nothing does.
Yeah. And
nothing.
I agree wholly on that. That's exactly what happened. And look, I think we're destined to see our own fire department end up taking it over, and probably in a few years from now. But
I don't know if you will, Timmy. I really don't.
It's where are we going to get? They're going to have to jack taxes up.
I'm going to tell you the taxes are going to get jacked up anyway because this guy's dog and pony show. Timmy, fix your mic because you're skipping in and out. Pull it a little closer to your that puss of yours. There you go.
Beautiful, beautiful. How's that sound?
There you go. So I don't think the fire department's going to take it over. Here's why. First of all, I think Keeler's pissing through. I left the city with the most money they ever had in their whole history.
Yeah.
I don't think for one, Keeler's pissing through that money every day trying to pretend he's doing such a good job you don't have to raise your taxes. There are people who cannot raise your taxes and it will never affect you. And then there's clowns like him that don't raise taxes that eventually come back and the city of Cohoes ends up like it was 10 years ago, ready to go bankrupt. And that's what he's going to do. We're going to see cuts in the fire department, cuts in the police department, cuts in the DPW, because the people of Cohoes cannot afford to continue to pay taxes that you should be paying when you live in Loudonville.
Right, yeah.
They just can't do it. Yeah. So if you can't tax the people, and Fat Ass hasn't brought in any business. I was told by somebody that Keeler's down at a neighborhood watch meeting bashing Mike Jacobson and saying, can you imagine Moore's paid this guy $100,000 a year? We got Steve Napier for half the price and he's doing a better job. Mike Jacobson couldn't carry Steve Napier's water. We're talking about Sean Morris and Mike Jacobson bringing in $90 million worth of revenue into the city with $75 million of it private business, meaning nobody in this city had to pay for that. We brought in $90 million. That's $90 million more than they brought in for 50 years. We brought in all the businesses on Ransom Street. We brought in all new businesses. We built the park. We turned the music hall into a #1 establishment. We brought all these great restaurants in. We fixed all the city and all of the sidewalks. We had the most beautiful park built. This guy ain't done shit except ruin every single thing we built. The park's a shithole. The streets are a shithole. The businesses are closing.
He bought Saratoga sites. Napier's holiday huts are still rotting away up at Reservoir 2. $25,000 there.
And that incompetent bastard has the balls to try to say to the people down the island that he's doing such a great job and the city's in great shape. The city has not brought in one penny of private investment since I left.
Nothing. Name one thing Napier brought in.
Nothing. There's nothing. Napier, Keeler don't know his ass from his gun that he had when he was in the state troopers. You got Steve Napier, who in no other city in the United States of America would be a director of economic development because he had no job. He was a political hack. He made campaign flyers for a living.
Well, Gil told me, hey, that was masterful of me to do that.
It was masterful.
For him
the only masterful thing about it is
drop out of the race so Keeler can be mayor and you'll get this big job. And then who got screwed? Randy
Connecticut got screwed, but the taxpayers got screwed because downtown's falling apart.
Yep.
They got $10 million. I would say that 4 or 5 of the projects are decent. The other ones are shit that they have. They're giving the money away, Timmy, because they can't get anybody to come in. And then they make this big fuss because they brought in a bakery. Well, they didn't bring in a bakery. They had a piece of land that was packaged together by guess who?
You guys.
Sean Morris and Mike Jacobson. Yeah. We packaged that whole property up. We bought it piece by piece. We put it together. We gave it to the IDA. Okay? All the IDA did is put it up for sale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And somebody said, hey, I'll buy that. And so a bakery buys it. And the bakery's going to get the 2 houses on the lot. They're going to fix them up for probably 40, 50 grand, rent them out. That will cover the cost of the $250,000 they paid for the land. They'll put a small little bakery in there, and the taxpayer is going to have a small little footprint on one of the biggest commercial properties in the city. And instead of having a $30 million project on there, we're going to have probably less than $1 million.
And I think it gets worse because aren't we talking about U-Haul across the street moving out?
U-Haul's moving out. And then you have people in the city that don't want to see no more development because they don't understand development pays for the money that they have to pay for taxes. Yeah. It is a shit show at the highest level. And all you have to do is start with the ambulance. It was going to be free, taxpayers, free. And that same company that offered to do it for free just a few months ago is getting $1 million a year now because Keeler is such an incompetent fool and had a dodo bird council that were incompetent themselves, except Billy Smith, and they all raised their hand and charged you $1 million for something they could have had free just 7 months ago.
And Todd, he carried that thing all the way.
Well, he don't like the ambulance, and I have no idea why. But.
And look, is Fod going to now apologize? Because what has changed? Is he going to apologize to Mohawk Ambulance? What has changed? What has changed in Fod's mind that the deal we have right now, okay, isn't the same deal we had, what was it, a year ago, 2 years ago? For free.
Nothing's going to change.
The language they used was at no cost. Okay?
Nothing's going to change.
Nothing.
Nothing's going to change because
We got the same thing except mutual aid, I believe, is the only thing different.
I don't know. If people are watching this show, maybe it's just me. But if I would have gave you my house for free and you turned it down because you didn't like the color of it,
Yeah.
and then a year later you bought it for $1 million off of me, I think that looks pretty stupid. What about you, Tim? I think that looks pretty stupid.
Look at, I get it, Sean. I think the listeners get it too. I mean, bottom line is you had something for free, and a year later you're paying for it. After you don't want it. Okay.
You're paying the free company $1 million freaking dollars.
It really boils down to this simple. He turned around and gave the ambulance the 100,000 or what 88 grand a month, and then you got another business. And Mohawk said, "Wait, whoa! If they can get 88 grand a month, so can we." And
Well, I
so
think
from going from free, no cost, to now they're picking up 90 grand a month because the Keeler opened up Pandora's box. It's stupid.
Yeah, I think what happened, and my people are telling me, Timmy, that what happened was when they turned down the free offer, Mohawk just was going to go about its own business, and then Fod starts bashing the quality of services of Mohawk, which is far better than Ambulance, I believe, just personal belief. And so there was a letter sent. We had it on the show, and that letter basically said, you cease and desist, or we're going to sue you. Mm-hmm. So the company they turned down for free, who then was going to sue them, now gets $1 million a year to be the ambulance of the city of Cohoes. And you can't make...
Right, and all 6 council members voted to approve it, including the lapdog.
Yeah, the guy who he's part of the reason we spent $1 million. First of all, I give a lot of kudos to Sean. I think he did a fantastic job. I think he's a stand-up guy. I think he's got, the courage of his convictions. It's not their fault that it's a little too late. They weren't the council back then. Yep. The council was a whole different council. God bless our good friend, Billy Smith.
Yeah.
Because Billy was one of the few people that stood up and said,
no. Yeah, he did. He stood up. And, Adam Biggs even resisted this thing, too. And it was Biggs. I was at that council meeting, and it was Biggs that said, we need to put together a public safety commission. And when because I asked him, don't we have a public safety commissioner? And he goes, yeah, actually committee. And he goes, yeah, well, that's us. And I said, and you're the chair, Adam. And so Adam said, yeah, well, then they put a resolution on the floor that this committee look into alternatives to ambulance. But then that's when the mayor said, well, we don't give a shit what you do, what your committee, we're staying with what I decided. And then what happens is a year later, the same committee, just a different chair, not saying that was bad on Biggs, but a different chair with Higgins. They did a lot of work, but we still ended up with $1 million a year because it's irreversible, Sean.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, I got a message. I just want to see if I can try to read. I want to clarify a couple things, right? So, there was a post put up where Alicio said something to the effect that people were trying to go after his job and calling his job and doing all that shit. And he blamed the Trudeau campaign. That's the farthest thing. First of all, I don't think April knew anything about his job, where he worked. She didn't pay one bit of attention to the guy. She focused nose to the grindstone and just focused. I think if anybody was going after him, that was when the fire department union said, you're a union guy and you're screwing over the union, then you call yourself a union guy.
Yeah.
And so I think that needed to be addressed because.
Yeah, he did. He actually did. He thought her campaign or something was behind it. And it was the 11th hour, okay, Hail Mary pass. He did this the day or two before the election, okay? She had nothing to do with that, and I can't. I'm not speaking for her or her campaign, but you're probably spot on. It was sour grapes by what he did to the firefighters, okay, and what's going on with him personally. Then they turned around and took a shot at him, okay, because he as a union member didn't support union firefighters. In fact, he wouldn't even give them the $6,500 for turnout gear, okay, that was in the budget.
Yeah, so I think, look at it. When I was the president of the firefighters union, when I worked for United Public Service Employees Union, when I worked for other unions, when I independently worked for unions,
Yeah.
we would if you were a union member and you were screwing the union brothers or sisters, we would go after you. And we
Yeah.
wouldn't be calling for your job to get fired, but we'd call your union and say, "What kind of guy are you backing here? What kind of union are you if you're backing, this guy who's coming after the fire department?" And so I'm sure the unions did that. I'm sure the firefighters called the state firefighters, who called their union and said, "What the hell's going on? Your guys are coming after our guys. This is stupid."
Yeah,
You know?
Teamsters going after firefighters.
Yeah, I don't get
Really
it.
what it boiled down to, because he was saying, "Oh, the Teamsters endorsed me and backing me like that," and then meanwhile, this guy here is going after other union guys. Look at Sean Higgins; he's union.
Yeah.
Nick Izzo, he's union. Okay.
I think Sean Higgins did a great job. And again, I can't blame them for what the
For
former group did. But Billy McCarthy, if you don't realize he's a lapdog now, he went from being a dodo bird. Now he's got a council that don't support any of the dodo bird decisions. And so now he falls in their lap. It's
Yeah,
just
he did
ridiculous.
tell a line on this too.
He's one of the few,
Ah.
yes. He's the reason Keeler got a $20,000 raise because he screwed the taxpayers and the rest of the
brought Russell
council.
into his office, snuck him into his office 15 minutes before the vote.
Yeah,
Okay.
and now he's voting yes for $1 million. Let me read this to you, Tim. It says, Dennis Bryan said, "Why has there always been such hatred or dislike for the fire department in the city of Cohoes? Seems to be always some kind of conflict between the mayor's office or the committee of the city. Don't quite understand if they are there to protect us solely, or even if things different should rethink their thoughts." I don't know exactly what that means. And let me make something perfectly clear to Dennis Bryan. Dennis, I think the conflict is this. The fire department is a group of people that go out there, put their lives on the line for this community. They provide some of the greatest EMS in the capital region. They are superior at the job that they do. And unfortunately, the fire department seems to always be the department that every mayor wants to cut. And so the fire department fights for its members. That's their job. I don't want to be going to a fire with 3 guys and thinking I'm going to have to go in that building and the chances of getting hurt or killed are 25 times greater because I don't have nobody to help me when I started with 15 guys. And so we're always fighting Manning, always fighting our contract, always fighting. If it says you get a week and a half vacation and they turn you down and say only get a week, you're going to fight just like you would. You worked at Norlight, you worked at places, you worked at Shelter, I think. I'm sure you always fought for what you thought was best. And I don't blame you. I hope you did. You're entitled to you're entitled to fight for your toll, man. You work, you give everything you got. And when you sit down and you have agreements and you're supposed to get things and then cities come in and take them away, I can tell you that some mayors I worked under, we had no fights. We had no grievances.
Well,
And
I would say this, Sean, okay? If your house is on fire, would you rather have 2 firefighters arrive on scene and try to set up and everything to deal with it? Or would you rather have 4 there, okay, where you can cut the time in half?
yeah.
And that's how I do it. That's
I don't think anybody hated the fire department. I think mayors get into a position where they got to try to figure out where to save money. Fire department's always looked at as a liability because you know why? Garbage men go out every day and bust their balls and they throw garbage and you can see their sweat and their toll on a daily basis, right?
And
Cops are
right. Cops too.
Cops are out driving around and people get to see them every day. So there's this sense that, I see them and they're being productive. Well, firemen, that's not what firemen do, right? Firemen sit back and wait till they're called to respond to some of the city's greatest disasters and greatest emergencies.
And they do
And
EMS now, which is they
we've
didn't do
been
in the past.
we've been doing ES. I retired because I got so tired of doing it. Tell you the truth, I couldn't do it no more.
It was at a point in time. Let's say even if it was 20 years ago, they weren't doing that, but they're doing it now. Okay,
We're doing a lot more of it
you
now.
don't
Yes.
see that every time someone gets hurt or whatever. Who's there first? Fire
Yeah,
department.
I think. But what I was trying to allude to is that the perception that they're hated is really just a perception.
Yeah.
The fact that they fight strong to defend themselves and they're a strong union makes it look like they're always in conflict. Billy Keeler's probably got more grievances in the fire department than anybody in the history of the fire department. He's cutting their manning. He's trying to take away this. He's trying to take away that. He's trying to go after their health care. He's trying to go after this. What do you want the people to do? Sit back and do nothing to fight and defend themselves? They put their lives on the line for you every day. You should stick up for them when they're trying to fight for their
I'm gonna tell you
livelihood.
exactly what Keeler did. Exactly. When the Audit and Finance Committee cut into his $21,000 raise, they said, no, 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 no. We're knocking it down to 13.5. We're taking 6,500 and giving it to the firefighters for turnout gear and $1,000 for the city clerk. And what did he do? He vetoed it. Okay, because they took $7,500 out of his pocket. And what did the firefighters end up with? They didn't get the gear, okay, because it was prearranged for the vote not to override his veto. And McCarthy set that on up, and Don Russell. Sean, did you ever see a member of the council ever abstain on a budget vote?
No. Donnie Russell did it to cover his own ass because he was grabbing people by the ass, and that's
Yeah,
and I like Donnie. I don't dislike him. I'm just saying,
But that's
people
what
do
happened.
things.
And
People
then
do things.
Alicio, guys like Alicio, he could sit back and just vote, yes, I want to override, because he already knew that there was no way they could do it when with the laptops voting no and Don Russell abstaining, he got a free ride.
Yeah, let me end with this, Timmy,
Yes.
because within the political system, there's something called politics.
Yes.
And when I was the chairman of the legislature, before I was the chairman, I was the whip of the majority. You know, my job was to sit down with the leader, look at all of the votes, look at the things we were trying to pass, and try to convince those who were going to vote no to vote yes, because we needed to pass certain legislation, right? That's what my job was.
And
Now,
that's
let me just tell you how the game works. I would go to Timmy and go, Tim, you don't have no opponent. Nobody's running against you next year. We need your vote. And you would say, yeah, I don't have nobody running, so fine, fine, I can support it, even though it's a controversial type of vote.
Yeah.
And then I would go over to Sean and say, Sean, listen, you got to pass. You can come out, you can vote no, share your thoughts, share your concern, because you got a tough race in a couple days, and we want to help you win. We need you, and we understand we have enough votes. That's the politics behind politics.
Yes.
So when Justin Alicio voted no, you're right. He already knew. They already gave him a pass because he was in an election year against Tommy Fife. So they said, look it, we don't need you. We got Lapdog. We got enough people. You vote against it if that's what you think you need to do. So they vote down his $20,000.
Well,
Still-
Alicio actually voted yes for the override, but he knew it wasn't.
That's what I'm
gonna-
talking. Well, that's what I just said.
Yes. So
Are you?
yeah,
Are you?
no.
Right. He voted no
Right.
for the guy's raise.
Yes.
How he voted on the piece of paper is irrelevant. You have to vote it yes to vote it down to vote no. I don't want to get into the procedural part, but the reality is he voted so he could tell people he voted against the